Microsoft has laid off about 1,900 employees at Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox. I think the announcement was made last week. While Microsoft is primarily laying off roles at Activision Blizzard, some Xbox and ZeniMax employees will be impacted by the cuts. So these cuts are basically 8% of the overall Microsoft gaming division. So according to a memo that's obtained by The Verge, Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer confirmed the layoffs, stating, quote unquote, "As part of this process, we have to make the painful decision to reduce the size of our gaming workforce by 1,900 roles out of the 22,000 people on our team. The gaming leadership team and I are committed to navigating this process as thoughtfully as possible." So anything you want to share, Haniff, about this?
It's kind of interesting to see that. I think after the takeover, this is one of the first few things that they decided to do, right? But which is perhaps, I guess, in line and I guess following the trend of a lot of other layoffs in other companies as well, right?
Yeah. Corporate consolidation, it's what they have to do lah, but it's still terrible considering that you make a really big successful acquisition and you cut out the people who would actually want to make this work somehow. So it's crazy lah. This actually happens.
Yeah, and sticking with Microsoft, they recently had their Xbox Developers Direct and they announced a few games. Yeah, let's talk about them.
Quite a good number of them. So this company, Machine Games, the makers of the Wolfenstein reboot, will be creating a new Indiana Jones first-person action game called Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. The game was officially revealed during the event and features action, puzzle solving, whipping, and archaeological expeditions, and also Nazi punching. The game will be out in 2024. I do predict this game might be delayed, but who knows? I mean, it's going to come out for Xbox and PC. Next title will be Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, which has been revealed quite a bit here and there. During the presentation, they actually had the release date announced, which is on the 21st of May 2024. The action game has a release date after for so long. It's a linear title, action, fighting, and all that, like a character action title, featuring a possibly mentally unstable female Viking warrior. Avowed is a new upcoming RPG from Obsidian Entertainment, the folks behind the best Fallout games and the Outer Worlds RPG series. Basically is what happens when the Obsidian team are doing a possibly smaller scale Skyrim type experience, with the first person sword combat, classes system and progression, gameplay mechanics being thrown in, as well as choices that in dialogue and in story and narrative that actually impact the entire overarching story all the way to the end. Avowed will be out in fall 2024. And last but not least is a game called Ara History Untold. Ara History Untold is an upcoming strategy game from Oxide Games. One of the strategy game's highlights is the fact that you no longer have to wait for your opponents to take their turn to keep playing. This is via the simultaneous turn system, a pretty unique feature that the developers are making to make it work. The game will be out for PC in fall 2024.
All right. Okay. So far, a great lineup there, you think?
So far, so good. It all looks promising. It's nice to know that Xbox has some games coming out. Interesting to see what PlayStation has in store, but for now, Xbox seems to have some promising titles.
All right. And let's move on to another news item that's pretty big, that's making waves at this very moment. PalWorld, a game that was just recently released to a lot of downloads, I suppose, but at the same time also a lot of controversies here and there. Yeah, maybe you can tell us a bit more about this game.
It is not a game we cannot escape from. PalWorld came out a couple of weeks ago. I believe it's on the 18th, right, or the 22nd of January-ish, around that week. And for those who don't know, PalWorld is a survival action title where it features creatures called pals who suspiciously look like Pokemon. So the new survival game, it actually peaked up at 2.1 million online players on Steam 17 hours ago, and doesn't seem to be letting up anytime soon. And the game has sold over 8 million copies at this time of writing. And mind you, the game is still in early access. So the internet is somehow accusing the game of being a Pokemon ripoff and for being totally built from AI-generated tech, i.e. a AI-generated game lah. These are not true claims, given that A, Pokemon is a turn-based RPG, while PalWorld is a survival action title with base-building mechanics. The game just happens to feature creatures who look legally distinct from Pokemon. However, on the flip side, Nintendo's Pokemon company is investigating the game PalWorld for a potential lawsuit. While they will not find actual grounds given parody laws, I mean, they can talk to Weird Al Yankovic about that sort of thing, Nintendo has a lot of money. and might find a way to prolong the case they can manufacture out of, dirt or whatnot, right? Besides, I think Nintendo should actually worry about making an actually good Pokemon game. Whether something will actually happen, we don't know yet, but you gotta remember, corporations have a lot of money, and if they can make, if it's something petty, they can make mountains out of molehills off, they will do it. Just for a quick buck.
We've summarized the news from this month earlier, and now we're going to talk about the games that were released, starting with Namco's Tekken 8.
Tekken 8 is, 1v1 3D fighting game, and it introduces a more aggressive playstyle gameplay mechanic called the heat system, where characters can activate heat mode, go into an install kind of phase where they actually get buffs. The game now features a 32 character roster featuring old classic characters like Paul, Jin, and also brings in returning and new characters like Jun Kazama, who is long thought dead in the Tekken series.
I see. All right. So, is this the best Tekken for now? Or like, do you feel like the earlier releases were better?
Personally, it feels like it actually. I am enjoying this Tekken 8 so far because as a 2D fighting game player who does not really get into 3D fighting games, this is very accommodating. But as far as accommodating new players goes, Tekken 8 will be the game to get into. Especially with how flashy it is.
So from there, we're going to move on to Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is about... it's still focusing on the new protagonist Ichiban Kasuga as he explores Hawaii with the other longtime protagonist of Like a Dragon, Kiryu Kazuma. So they partake in new minigames, one of them involving Uber delivery services, fight new enemies, fight a lot more gangsters, and do a lot more open world style events here and there. Can't really say much about the plot because it's spoiler territory, but the game leans very heavily on its story legacy, especially in Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is Like a Dragon 7 or Yakuza 7. So the game implements the whole turn-based combat system, but is way more improved, so it's easier to hit your targets, and the commands are a bit more flashed out. You get more crazy attacks, team-up attacks, and everything. I do feel that the game's weakest point is the over-reliance of a lot of the Yakuza's history, but that's kind of part and parcel of the game lah. And also, some of the story themes might be conflicting with one another, especially when you compare the main story's quest topics compared with the side quests, other topics here and there. But I think that's just something that you just nitpick, especially when you get to the end. But so far, on the overall aspect of gameplay, I think it comes out really top-notch.
All right, let's talk about the next release. We spoke about Ubisoft earlier in the show. Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. This looks great, and from what I've read, seems to be like a good release as well.
Oh yes, this is actually one of my top picks of January. I mean, as much as I like Tekken 8, I really fell in love with this Metroidvania. So Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown is a 2D platformer styled like it basically is a Metroidvania, a such action game. So you control a character named Sargon who has to rescue a prince from this palace lost in time, and there's a lot to explore. So you'll fight a lot of crazy monsters like manticores and zombies, giant snakes and whatnot. Really cool stuff. And a lot of the combat and all the puzzles really involve you like using after images and making things appear back and forth and air dashing, and some puzzles can get tough, but that's what makes the game fun in the first place. The game really makes you work for your platforming and exploring to the point where you get the double jump, which is a staple in every Metroidvania, very late in the game.
Sounds like a good release, especially considering that they finally, I guess, went back to quote-unquote the series' core roots, I suppose?
In a way it did, because Prince of Persia was originally a 2D game. It's just that now it's taking the Metroidvania route, which is a very popular template that a lot of game developers like to use, like having a big open world with a 2D platforming mechanics added on into it here and there. So it only makes sense for Prince of Persia to make this evolutionary leap. It's just that I didn't expect it to be this good, this really great. And for those who don't know, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown was created by Ubisoft Montpellier, the team who actually made the Rayman Origins reboot titles. So the platforming in this game is sublime and very spot on. Like, there are just a lot of precision platforming you need to do to master to actually get through a lot of the many difficult challenges in this game. So yeah, the controls are great, they're sublime. The prince, they fights really well. And yeah, the level design is very seamless, very well thought out. And the puzzles can get, like I said, challenging, but it just requires a bit of thought and some brain teasers and all that to make you figure out things here and there and what to do. It'll make you feel smarter after you solve them, let's just say that. So yeah, I say Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is my recommendation for the month.